Hello and welcome to another live stream slash video on my channel here. Today we are back in Minecraft yet again, just like the last video. Last video was just kind of like random on the spot, I just feel like making a video kind of thing, so you know, don't need to think too much about this one, about that one, but this one I want to go over some stuff that I've been trying to figure out in Minecraft's current version, which would be which follows directly after the Village and Pillage update. And the subject I've been trying to focus on, if it isn't quite obvious with all these structures out here, I've been trying to create mob grinders. Alright, so it started off with this over here. I was trying to figure out a regular mob grinder, and I got about this far when I realized that because of the update aquatic, a traditional mob grinder just will not work. And why is that? Well, that is because, let me change it to nighttime so this guy doesn't die first. If I take this skeleton here, and I were to drop him in there, if it wasn't peaceful. Alright, I drop him in there and he just sinks. He just sinks. The water can still push him into here, but once he gets right about here, he's stuck. He can't go anywhere. He can travel between those two spaces there, back and forth. He can't really travel against water very well, if you didn't already know just from watching creatures try to attack you in a mine or something. So yeah, there were a lot of things going on wrong with this one, which caused me to give up. But the main thing is that any undead mob no longer floats to the surface of the water, thanks to the update aquatic. How unfortunate. So I started looking into some other options, and these other options, they may work depending on your platform, but I'm currently playing on the PS4. Okay, so I'm sure that these two options right here should work on any Bedrock version. Hopefully, I'm hoping. Should definitely work on Java. However, on this PS4 version here, we seem to run into an issue with creating ones like this. And that is, even though I'm right here, I'm not close enough to the spawn point I'm not close enough to the render distance that I need to be in for the mobs to render in and actually do anything down here. Since I was up there, it's possible that something may have spawned in and may be falling down here. But I created this entire elaborate setup and then didn't even think to test it before I set all this up. So I made a thing that looks really nice. But then if we go and test it, when I went in to test it, as you can see, as you can hear, things are spawning up here, but that's because I'm up here. Also because I placed spawners in here. Right? I kind of gave up on this. I was trying to get all the mobs to just flow down there. I placed some villagers up here to make the zombies have something to go after. Placed spawners up here because if these spawners weren't up here, these things wouldn't be spawning. But when I'm all the way down at the ground level, I'm just not close enough to this big platform up here for everything to start spawning. However, this does work quite nicely if you don't accidentally break a block because you're in creative. It is effective. We're also going to leave here because those zombies are loud and annoying. Okay. So these don't work. So then I decided that I was going to create something a little more like this. Alright. Now the problem is this requires 2 people. One person to stay near the spawners so that everything continually spawns. And another person who is the person trying to get the XP or whatever is dropping from the creatures down here, killing everything. Now I'm building these above ground because there's not a lot of space downward that I can go in this world. Otherwise I'd be making them underground to see how efficient they are underground. Because as you can see by this moat around my castle, which ignore the terrible look at that castle. That castle is the oldest build that I have on any world. That's from when I first started playing the game. And I leave it as is, maybe make some minor changes when they make changes that might work better for certain things. With it, they don't really change a whole lot. I do know that I put like a mock church inside the castle, and when they added the lecterns with the last update, I went in and swapped out the enchantment table that I had for an altar with the lectern. But yeah. So if there was more downward space on this map, I'd actually be building. I'd probably be trying to build these underground, so I know what I'm doing when I go to do this in survival. But I don't have that luxury on this world, and I don't feel like creating a new world just to do that. So we have the drawback of having to work above ground, and with this spawner, again, drawback, you need 2 people. One person to make sure that the mobs are spawning, and then the other person goes down and is down there killing them. Otherwise, if you're doing this with one person, you're wasting a lot of time and a lot of food and energy and hunger running back and forth, making things spawn, going down, killing it all, coming back up, making things spawn. It's just not efficient. Also, with how this works, apparently things can spawn outside of the radius. So outside the radius of that, because I don't exactly know what the exact radius is on a spawner. So then just today I decided to make this. Started off, this wound up being a completed version of that first one all the way down there that I stopped working on. But it started off, instead of having the regular water elevator, I put scaffolding in to see if mobs would climb that. And unfortunately, the hostile mobs don't know how to climb scaffolding, which I suppose is actually fortunate news for people if they're trying to escape them and they happen to have scaffolding. So I guess, you know, trying to get away from zombies and creepers and skeletons and all that, they don't know how to climb scaffolding, so just start climbing scaffolding. I learned that. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, wait a minute. What all are there for mobs in the game? Are there any mobs left in the game that the regular one could actually work for? And I discovered that there are a few. We have the creeper, for example. It still floats across water. The witch still floats across water. Skeletons, all different varieties of skeletons, they all sink. Spiders can climb walls, so that doesn't really help your case at all. It's gonna make this kind of pointless. Also, if you find a spider spawner, you can just like create a little doorway to get into the dungeon that the spider spawner's in, or create a room for the spiders, make it so that they spawn in there, they aggro on you and just climb up the wall till they are within your reach but they can't hit you, and then you just kill them at the ceiling. It's kind of what I usually do. I mean, it's not the most efficient method, and it's probably the most dangerous method, but it works, I guess. Not exactly as a grinder situation, but it's as close as you're gonna get at the current moment. Again, all the zombies, all the different zombies, they all sink. Obviously the drowned sinks. The drowned can swim, but I don't think that that's gonna help with a I do not think that will help with a grinder. Slimes, you're not going to get any help with that because of how they move about. Magma cube, same thing. We got the witch. Silverfish, too small for it to matter with. Ghast, I don't know why you would even want to attempt that with a ghast. Zombie pigman, again, same thing. They're undead, so they're just gonna sink. Blaze, they can fly away. Enderman, just gonna teleport away. Endermite, don't last in the overworld very long to begin with anyway. Shulker, you can't find those in the overworld, they're only in the end. And I don't think you'd want to even attempt that anyway. Besides, they cling on to a block and just stay there. Phantoms, obviously they're flying. Guardians and Elder Guardians, they're already in the ocean. And I don't think it would work that well considering they can swim. The Evoker, I thought about that one. Basically any of the Illagers. The Vex doesn't count because they can go through everything. So that's just not going to work. But the Evoker, the Vindicator, the Pillager could probably work for those as well. I mean, we'll see. It should work for them because they still swim. The Ravager, I have not messed around with the Ravager, so I honestly don't know. And I think that's all the hostile mobs. So, I don't know if the Ravager can swim, but it's got such a big model and a big hitbox and all that, that you really don't want to even attempt it, I don't think. But, as you can see, I managed to get this spawner working with creepers to a point where all you need is a wooden sword and you can kill them in one hit. Alright, so we got the creepers, they spawn in there. We're gonna open that up. We get the witch in there. apparently XP gets caught inside those cauldrons, or not cauldrons, hoppers. Excuse me. Excuse me, creepers. Alright, so we got our first witch spawning in, and now the witch, though it does work, it still does swim. The witch has its own problem. As you can hear, the witch just drank a potion. Pretty sure that was a water-breathing potion because they needed to swim to the surface because they were underwater. Give it a little bit of time for the witch to make its way through the system. But that water-breathing potion's not the problem. The problem is when they fall and land, they're still gonna take a few hits because they drink potions to heal themselves. So that's not very efficient. However, you can get sticks and a whole bunch of different materials for making potions if you were to set this up, which I suppose could be a benefit. But it's still gonna take a lot. And I know the whole reason why you're gonna do this is because you want XP and you want it as fast as possible. So the witch, not the best option. So what if we throw an evoker in there? There's a few more witches that are gonna need to make their way through. But then we can get to the evoker. Excuse me. You're not evokers. Now, I haven't tested it with the pillagers yet, but I do know that because they can swim, it will work. So let's see what happens when they drop. Can't remember if the evoker is like the witch in that it can heal itself. Yes, I am in creative, but I also know that okay, so it takes 2 hits with a wooden sword to kill them, so obviously we need to make this taller so that they take more fall damage. That's no problem. Or at least I don't think it is. Let me just look into how much health an evoker has. Let's see. We need a list of mobs. Alright, we need the evoker. Alright, so the evoker has 24 health. So that explains why they're not dying very fast. Okay, so obviously we're going to need to make this taller. Just kind of as a reference point, I have it at 21, which is the height for skeletons currently. So if I go back to my list of mobs here and I find the skeleton, alright. So the skeleton has 20 health. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head what the algorithm is for damage taken for height. I think it's let's see here. Okay, so I'm pretty sure. Alright. Let's think about this here. So if I were to take and put a block there, because that's the height of that. Alright, so how far are we making them fall? Alright, so we're at Y27 here. And the landing area is at Y6. So they fall 21 blocks. Right? That does the majority of their health, although I think we could go all the way down to 22 blocks for a skeleton, and it won't kill them. So let's essentially their health plus like 2. So for the evoker, bring it up to about 26. Could possibly work, but then your chest is going to fill really fast with these totems of undying. Okay, maybe that's not that bad. But that also takes a lot of the fun out of the whole point of the game, because now you constantly have totems of undying and you never have to worry about dying. Okay, well, that ruins that option. Let's move on to the Vindicator. Let's see what we get from the Vindicator. Nope, that's still an evoker. That was another evoker. I do think that we are eventually going to start getting Vindicators. Should be getting them soon. Alright, there's our first Vindicator. And he dropped an Iron Axe. Do they all drop Iron Axes? Oh, I also forgot that the Illagers tend to drop emeralds as well. So you'll have emeralds for days with this method. That's not a bad trade-off, I don't think. So we'll kill a few of the Illagers. Now, again, the Vindicator, it's got more health than a skeleton. Exactly how much? I'm gonna look that up right now. So we've got the Vindicator. With, again, 24 health, so it'd be at that 26 height limit that the evoker would be at as well. Makes sense. I'm just gonna assume that the pillager would be the same. So they tend to drop iron axes of varying durability, mostly broken from the looks of it. So you get a whole bunch of those. You can just farm iron axes, and you can use them as weapons or use them to chop down a lot of wood or whatever it is you need it to be. But then, I don't know if this is just me, but I don't really need that many emeralds. So maybe, just maybe, we'll have a bit of different luck with the pillagers. Because I really don't need all the emeralds that I'll be getting from those Vindicators and Evokers. Plus, I really don't need those Totems of Undying. That kind of makes the game less entertaining. So, what are we going to be getting off of the Pillagers? There we go. That's a more reasonable drop. Alright, we have 16 emeralds though, so we'll keep an eye on that, because I think pillagers might also have a chance at dropping emeralds. And out of the 3 of these, the pillager, I do believe, is the most likely to be able to do this with. All you would need is to find a pillager outpost. Alright. As of right now, I'm more likely to get crossbows than emeralds. Interesting. What enchantment does this one come with? Unbreaking 2 and Quick Charge 1. So you can arm that crossbow faster. Alright. So essentially this is basically just like a skeleton spawner at this point. You're getting arrows and weapon that uses arrows. Potentially enchanted variants. That's interesting. Plus you're also getting the XP that they drop, which is the whole purpose of creating this in the first place, right? Also, I know this is gonna cut into the amount of damage that they take on their fall, but it just bothers me that that XP is getting caught in the hoppers with no way to access it. Alright. See, now the XP just slides across and all the spoils go down here. So that's kind of interesting. So the pillager is basically just another variant of skeleton that can actually go through this. Okay, that's all good. But like I was saying earlier, with the pillagers, the way to do this, you're not gonna find a spawner that has pillagers. You're not gonna find a spawner that has creepers. Creepers are probably the best option for this anyway. Either the creepers or the pillagers are probably the best option for this. So you're not gonna find a spawner that specifically spawns any of these mobs that I have in my hotbar. That's the only problem with this. You can't find those in an actual survival game. The only way to get those is to create them yourself in creative. Or cheat yourself in a spawn egg and turn one into one. So now in theory you could probably get something similar to this for the pillagers by finding a pillager outpost and setting something kind of like this up at the pillager outpost and see if that can work. But that's going to require a lot of work, a lot of trial, and a lot of error, and it will most likely probably end in failure, because there's no... I do not believe that the pillagers will spawn in water. So it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to set this up properly. So unfortunately, there's another enchanted crossbow. You got piercing 1 on it. So unfortunately, it looks as though in survival, on the PS4 anyway, I'm not entirely sure about Bedrock. It may be similar, and I assume it may be specifically because the PS4 gets basically all the same updates that Bedrock gets, even though we are not on a Bedrock platform. This is still a surviving console platform, which means it still has limitations in place. Like, we are limited in the amount of banners that we can place and the amount of pictures we can place, etc., etc. And another restriction is the amount of mobs that can spawn. So even though I can get all these spawners going all at the same time, spawning as many mobs as possible, there's gonna reach a limit where even with the spawners, we just can't get any more, because that's how console works. We go far enough away from there, they'll all despawn, that'll stop working. So on console, we are going to be limited to the most inefficient way to get things done, unless we want to cheat in our survival world, which, if you're trying to get achievements, isn't really that possible. So in conclusion, is it still possible to do a mob grinder? It is, but there's no efficient way to do it, and you probably just be better off going and doing your regular thing. Honestly, it'd probably be easier to get your levels if that was what you were creating it for. It'd probably be easier to do that just going and mining. That tends to be how I usually go and get levels. Me and my friends will go down into a mine. One of us will just start going straight down a strip mine, creating a really long strip mine, while everyone else follows and gathers the ores, gaining their levels, and then the person who did all the straight mining winds up getting a whole bunch of experience from everything that we smelt off of that. Take care of your animals on your farm. That's another way to gain XP. That'll probably gain you XP faster than trying to make one of those XP grinders work. Just basically playing the game and doing other stuff. It works better than an XP grinder, which is all fine and dandy, but if you're sitting there at really close to level 30 and you just want to enchant, but you don't want to potentially lose all those levels, there's no way to guarantee that you can get to that level 30. There's no fast way to finish off your level 30. It's like, hey, I need to reach level 30 because I'm about ready to enchant. I'm 2 or 3 levels away. I want to get it done fast, and I don't want to lose all my levels in the process. There's no way to do it. There's no efficient way to do it. It's all gonna take up a lot of your time, and I feel like I feel like a big mistake was made in the fact that they made it so that you can't really efficiently grind your XP for your levels, especially if you're trying to do like a speed run or something, and you want, and in the speed run, part of the speed run is, you know, getting fully enchanted gear. It's not usually a requirement in a speed run for Minecraft, though I think it kind of should be, because that's part of the experience. But honestly, I wouldn't blame anybody for not wanting to go through that. Why? Because there's no way to easily farm that XP. I really wish that when they made that change, they would have made another change that compensated for the change when it comes to easy XP grinding. Because they made XP grinding probably one of the most tedious things to do in the game anymore. It's usually it was something that people wouldn't normally do until late game anyway, and they basically removed a late game feature by doing that. Now, honestly, I'd say probably the most efficient way to grind XP is after you've beaten the Ender Dragon once, bring a whole bunch of End Crystals in and respawn them and do it again. That's honestly my advice right there. Just prepare for a bunch of Ender Dragon fights. But that's what I think. Tell me, what do you think? Am I missing something? Is there some other way to gain XP really fast that I'm missing? Is there a way to make a proper XP grinder in vanilla survival Minecraft on the PS4? Also tell me, on PC and Bedrock, do these versions right here still work without mob spawners in them? Can you just create a giant tower that when mobs spawn in and drop down almost kills them? Does that still work in Bedrock? I'd assume that it still works in Java, just because of well, I guess it depends on your PC at that point. But what all works on the other platforms, and do you think this is an issue that needs to be fixed? Let me know. Comment, like if you like the video, subscribe if you're new. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video or broadcast that I do.